Biden needs allies to keep China and Russia in check. Hey, race, how to do it. For those who believe that the American era was over, 2022 was a rude surprise. Faced with the biggest land war in Europe since 1945, the United States led a multi-country effort to assist Ukraine. Faced with a belligerent China, the United States embarked on a concerted strategy to arrest Beijing's military-industrial rise. The Biden administration improvised new tools of statecraft, the freezing of Russia's foreign currency reserves, the capping of the price paid for Russia's oil exports, the embargo on semiconductor exports to China. Sweden and Finland opted to join an invigorated NATO. Japan, South Korea, Australia and India were drawn deeper into US-led arrangements aimed at containing China. So much for that moment in February when the Russian and Chinese leaders announced a no-limits partnership, issuing a joint declaration that attempted to define a supposedly post-American order. And yet, impressive though the administration's foreign policy performance has been, President Biden faces a challenge. During the first half of his tenure, he has shared with Donald Trump the dubious distinction of being one of only two post-war presidents not to support freer trade. Now, for both economic and foreign policy reasons, he must change direction. Like his predecessors during the Cold War, Biden must deploy free trade as a weapon for isolating enemies and cementing friendships. And to manage the attendant political costs, he must reframe the nation's attitude to globalization. The task of rekindling America's appetite for free trade might seem hopeless, except that the Biden administration has already accomplished the near impossible. Taken together, its efforts against Russia and China during 2022 have restored the United States to a position of international leadership not seen since the aftermath of the 2001 terrorist attacks on the Pentagon and World Trade Center. Consider the Ukraine conflict. Faced with a war that could have been viewed as Europe's problem, the administration has committed $24 billion in military assistance to Ukraine, fully 60% of all pledges provided by outside powers. Congress has just approved a significant increase in defense spending for a second year in a row, ending a period of minimal growth between 2015 and 2021 and putting the Pentagon budget on track to hit its second highest level since World War II as measured in inflation-adjusted dollars. The chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, which seemed to signal an America First determination to shed foreign commitments, has been replaced by a willingness to stand up to an expansionist czar who tramples the global order. The U.S. example has helped to galvanize allies. Some had little choice, because they share a border with Ukraine or are particularly exposed to Russia. 5 frontline states, Estonia, Latvia, Poland, Lithuania and Slovakia, have committed the most assistance, military plus humanitarian and financial, relative to the size of their economies. Estonia's commitment, at 1.32% of gross domestic product, is more than 5 times larger as a share of its economy than the U.S. commitment of 0.23%. But according to the Kiel Institute for the World Economy, 21 other countries have pledged a higher share of GDP to Ukraine than has the United States. Even the laggards whom then Defense Secretary Donald H. Rumsfeld once derided as "old Europe" have come forward. Germany, France and Italy have committed 0.33%, 0.28% and 0.27% of GDP, respectively. The United States and Europe have also forged agreements on sanctions targeting Moscow. Within days of the invasion, the Allies froze a large portion of Russia's foreign currency reserves and excluded an array of Russian banks from the international payments system. As a result, Russian imports crashed in the first 3 months of the war, depriving the country of supplies for both its military and civilian sectors. Even though China and Turkey have since emerged as artful sanctions dodgers, Russian imports remain about 25% below their pre-invasion level, according to analysis by Matthew C. Klein of the Overshoot newsletter. The alliance will face internal stresses in the months to come, but for the moment what's striking is how well it has held together despite partisan division in Washington, populist pressures in Europe and Russia's retaliatory natural gas embargo, which threatens to tip Europe into recession. For the first time since 2001, the United States has stood at the helm of a broad and resilient military coalition.